Hey everybody, we are on day 22 of our Bible in a Year plan. We're reading through the CSB Bible. Today we're going to be reading Exodus 13, 14, and 15. I'm going to try to get through it. Yesterday I said that I thought I was battling something, and that was confirmed last night. I do have the flu, but yeah, we'll just push on through. So we're on, like I said, chapter 13. We'll read this and then we'll have some questions at the end as well. So, chapter 13. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Consecrate every firstborn male to me, the firstborn from every womb among the Israelites, both man and domestic animal, it is mine." Then Moses said to the people, "Remember this day when you came out of Egypt, out of the place of slavery, for the Lord brought you out of here by the strength of his hand. Nothing leavened may be eaten. Today in the month of Abib you are going out, when the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Hivites, and Jebusites, which he swore to your ancestors that he would give you, a land flowing with milk and honey. You must carry out the ceremony in this month. For 7 days you must eat unleavened bread, and on the seventh day there is to be a festival to the Lord. Unleavened bread is to be eaten for those 7 days. Nothing leavened may be found among you, and no yeast may be found among you in all your territory. On that day explain to your son, this is because of what the Lord did for me when I came out of Egypt. Let it serve as a sign for you on your hand and as a reminder on your forehead, so that the Lord's instruction may be in your mouth, for the Lord brought you out of Egypt with a strong hand. Keep this statute at its appointed time from year to year. When the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, as he swore to you and your ancestors, and gives it to you, you are to present to the Lord every firstborn male of the womb. All firstborn offspring of the livestock you own that are males will be the Lord's. You must redeem every firstborn of a donkey with a flock of animal, but if you do not redeem it, break its neck. However, you must redeem every firstborn among your sons. In the future, when your son asks you, 'What does this mean?' say to him, 'By the strength of his hand, the Lord brought us out of Egypt, out of the place of slavery. When Pharaoh stubbornly refused to let us go, the Lord killed every firstborn male in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of the humans and the firstborn of the livestock. This is why I sacrifice to the Lord all the firstborn of the womb that are males, but I redeem all the firstborn of my sons. So let it be a sign on your hand and a symbol on your forehead, for the Lord brought us out of Egypt by the strength of his hand.' When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them along the road to the land of the Philistines, even though it was nearby. For God said, 'The people will change their minds and return to Egypt if they face war.' So he led the people around toward the Red Sea, along the road of the wilderness, and the Israelites left the land of Egypt in battle formation. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, because Joseph had made the Israelites swear a solemn oath, saying, 'God will certainly come to your aid. Then you must take my bones with you from this place.' They set out from Succoth and camped at Etham on the edge of the wilderness. The Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of cloud to lead them on their way during the day, and a pillar of fire to give them light at night, so they could travel day or night. The pillar of cloud by day, the pillar of fire by night, never left its place in front of the people." Chapter 14. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, "Tell the Israelites to turn back and camp in front of Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea. You must camp in front of Baal-zephon, facing it by the sea. Pharaoh will say of the Israelites, 'They are wandering around the land in confusion. The wilderness has boxed them in.' I will harden Pharaoh's heart so that he will pursue them. Then I will receive glory by means of Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord." So the Israelites did this. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds about the people and said, "What have we done? We have released Israel from serving us." So he got his chariot ready and took his troops with him. He took 600 of his best chariots and all the rest of the chariots of Egypt, with officers in each one. The Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued the Israelites who were going out defiantly. The Egyptians, all Pharaoh's horses and chariots, his horsemen, all and his army, chased after them and caught up with them as they camped by the sea of Harioth, I don't know, in front of Baal-zephon. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians coming after them. The Israelites were terrified and cried out to the Lord for help. They said to Moses, "It is because there are no graves in Egypt that you have taken us away to die in the wilderness. What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Isn't this what we told you in Egypt? Leave us alone so that we may serve the Egyptians. It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness." But Moses said to the people, "Don't be afraid. Stand firm and see the Lord's salvation that he will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you must be quiet." So I like how it takes like 0.7 seconds for the Israelites to start complaining in the wilderness. It's not... that's how we are too. I think most people, without realizing it. But yeah, they had like the first sign of difficulty they had, and they're already saying that they would have been better off as slaves. Yeah. Okay. Verse 15. The Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to break camp. As for you, lift up your staff, stretch out your hand over the sea, and divide it so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground. As for me, I am going to harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them, and I will receive glory by means of Pharaoh, all his army, and his chariots and horsemen. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I receive glory through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen." Then the angel of God, who was going in front of the Israelites' forces, moved and went behind them. The pillar of cloud moved from in front of them and stood behind them. It came between the Egyptians and Israelite forces. There was a cloud and darkness. It lit up the night, and neither group came near the other all night long. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord drove back the sea with a powerful east wind all that night, and turned the sea into dry land. So the waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground, with the waters like a wall to them on their right and their left. The Egyptians set out in pursuit, all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen, and went into the sea after them. During the morning watch, the Lord looked down at the Egyptian forces from the pillar of fire and cloud, and threw the Egyptian forces into confusion. He caused their chariot wheels to swerve, and made them drive. With difficulty, "Let's get away from Israel," the Egyptians said, "because the Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, so that the water may come back on the Egyptians, on their chariots and horsemen." So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at daybreak the sea returned to its normal depth. While the Egyptians were trying to escape from it, the Lord threw them into the sea. The water came back and covered the chariots and horsemen, plus the entire army of Pharaoh that had gone after them into the sea. Not even one of them survived. But the Israelites had walked through the sea on the dry ground, and with the waters like a wall to them on their right and their left. That day the Lord saved Israel from the power of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. When Israel saw the great power that the Lord used against the Egyptians, the people feared the Lord and believed in him and his servant Moses. Okay, chapter 15. Then Moses and the Israelites sang this song to the Lord. They said, I will sing to the Lord, for he is highly exalted. He has thrown the horse and its rider into the sea. The Lord is my strength and my song. He has become my salvation. This is my God, and I will praise him. My father's God, and I will exalt him. The Lord is a warrior. The Lord is his name. He threw Pharaoh's chariots and his army into the sea. The elite of his officers were drowned in the Red Sea. The floods covered them. They sank to the depths like a stone. Lord, your right hand is glorious in power. Lord, your right hand shattered the enemy. You overthrew your adversaries. By your great majesty, you unleashed your burning wrath. It consumed them like stubble. The water heaped up at the blast from your nostrils. The current stood firm like a dam. The watery depths congealed in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. My desire will be gratified at their expense. I will draw my sword. My hand will destroy them. But you blew with your breath, and the sea covered them. They sank like lead in the mighty waters. Lord, who is like you among the gods? Who is like you, glorious in holiness, revered with praises, performing wonders? You stretched out your right hand, and the earth swallowed them. With your faithful love, you will lead the people you have redeemed. You will guide them to your holy dwelling with your strength. When the peoples hear, they will shudder. Anguish will seize the inhabitants of Philistia. Then the chiefs of Edom will be terrified. Trembling will seize the leaders of Moab. All the inhabitants of Canaan will panic terror, and dread will fall on them. They will be as still as a stone because of your powerful arm, until your people pass by. Lord, until the people whom you purchased pass by. You will bring them in and plant them on the mountain of your possession. Lord, you have prepared the place for your dwelling. Lord, your hands have established the sanctuary. The Lord will reign forever and ever. When Pharaoh's horses and his chariots and the horsemen went into the sea, the Lord brought the water of the sea back over them, but the Israelites walked through the sea on dry ground. Then the prophetess Miriam, Aaron's sister, took a tambourine in her hand, and all the women came out following her with the tambourine and dancing. Miriam sang to them, Sing to the Lord, for he is highly exalted. He has thrown the horse and its rider into the sea. Then Moses led Israel from the Red Sea, and they went out to the wilderness of Shur. They journeyed for 3 days in the wilderness without finding water. They came to Marah, but they could not drink the water at Marah because it was bitter. That is why it is named Marah. The people grumbled to Moses, What are we going to drink? So 3 days ago, they saw God open up the sea, and they walked through on dry ground, and the Egyptians were swallowed up by the sea. But now, God providing them water is too much, right? So he cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree. When he threw it into the water became drinkable. The Lord made a statute, an ordinance for them at Marah, and he tested them there. He said, If you will carefully obey the Lord your God, do what is right in his sight, pay attention to his commands, and keep all his statutes, I will not inflict any illnesses on you that I inflict on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord who heals you. Then they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs and 70 date palms, and they camped there by the water. Alrighty, that is it for today. We do have questions. So the purpose of the questions is just give you something to kind of maybe do a little more than just read and walk away. Actually give you something to think about with what we read. So, question 1. What does the consecration of the firstborn signify in the context of Israel's deliverance? And how can we understand its relevance in our lives today? Well, again, I think this ties to well, it ties back to the final plague in Egypt, but it also ties to Jesus and the sacrifice that he made for us, being the only begotten Son. So, question 2. How does the miraculous parting of the Red Sea demonstrate God's power and faithfulness? And what does it teach us about trusting him in difficult situations? So this makes me think of something I would hear often in Pentecostal circles is if it's God's will, it's God's bill. Now, there are also God always provides for his plan, and God only provides for his plan. So it's this idea that if God has called you somewhere or told you to do something, he's going to provide a way for it to happen. The only thing that you need to worry about, and we've touched on this the last couple days, the only thing that you have to do is be obedient. You don't have to figure out how it's going to work out. You don't have to figure out what you need to do. You don't need to figure out the plan and have it all figured out and outlined, like point A to B or to C. Like, you just need to be obedient. That's all that God wants from you. He wants obedience. And delayed obedience is still disobedience too. So, as far as what can that teach us about trusting God in difficult situations? Well, the Israelites were in a difficult situation. They were being pursued, and God had brought them out of Egypt. So God was going to provide a way for them to be out of Egypt. Even when they were saying that they would have been better off going back, God still made a way. And question 3. In what ways can we express our gratitude and worship like Moses and Miriam in response to the ways God has delivered us in our own lives? So this is an interesting idea. I think we do see a little bit of this with like professional singer, songwriters, things like that. But I think this is something that we could do more in our own lives. Have something like this that you do. If you can write music or whatever, or a poem, or even like do something, some type of a tradition or something at your house. I think this is a really cool idea, and I think I'm talked to my wife about it, and I think we may look at ways to do this too. But things that we can do around our house, or that we can start doing with our kids, to acknowledge some of the specific ways that God has helped us. Acknowledge some of the specific ways that God has brought us through things. I think it's a good reminder. It's a good way to ensure that we continue trusting him. A reminder of why we should trust him. So I think it's an interesting idea, even for us today, so far removed from the stories of the Bible. I think it's still something we could do. I think we should take note that the Israelites did this. So, all right. Appreciate everyone watching and listening to this point. I'm not going to drag this out because I really don't feel well. There's some links in the description. Check out. I hope this has been a blessing to you. I've enjoyed doing it. And we'll get through this, and then we'll do it again next year with a different translation. So, appreciate it. God bless.